Sainte Chapelle is one of the grandest churches in the city of Paris. This Gothic architectural gem rivals Notre Dame in its grandeur, though not its size. This beautiful chapel is a must-see, and its history is a great subject to dive into. Here are 7 fun facts about Sainte Chapelle. Number 1. Sainte Chapelle is one of the most famous examples of Rayonnant Gothic architecture. This French style of Gothic was considered as the defining style of the High Gothic period. This included more extensive decoration and the development of the rose window. In fact, the term rayonnant itself comes from the idea of the radiating spokes of the rose window shape. We'll get to Sainte Chapelle's rose window specifically later on. Number 2. The chapel was built to house one of the most famous relics in Christian history, the Crown of Thorns. King Louis IX, now considered a saint, purchased the Crown of Thorns in Venice from Baldwin II of Constantinople. The chapel itself was built as a fitting monument for this sacred relic. It was said that the crown cost King Louis 3 times what the chapel itself cost. Today, the Crown of Thorns belongs to Notre Dame. But King Louis's relic acquisitions did not stop at the Crown of Thorns. At one time, Sainte Chapelle housed over 20 sacred relics, including nails and pieces of wood believed to be connected to Christ's crucifixion. In addition to these, the king's collection is believed to have included a vial with the blood of Christ, milk of the Virgin Mary, swaddling clothes of the infant Christ, the spear used to impale Christ's side, also known as the Holy Lance, the staff of Moses, a piece of St. John the Baptist's head as well as the heads of several other saints, and a stone from the tomb where Christ was buried. Number 3. The stained glass windows in the upper chapel are undeniably its defining feature. I could probably do an entire video just exploring the stained glass. There are 15 massive windows that make up the walls of this upper church. They are roughly 50 feet in height, and there are 1,113 individual windows within them. These windows depict scenes from the Bible, the Old Testament on one side and the New Testament on the other. You can see scenes featuring pink and yellow frogs as part of the 10 plagues of Egypt and Moses parting the Red Sea. And you can also see a heart-rending depiction of the Passion with Christ being flogged on the cross. With over 1,000 panels to choose from, you're bound to see something unique in every one. King Louis IX himself is even represented in one of them. Number 4. Speaking of stained glass, let's go back to that rose window. While the taller windows feature famous stories from the Old and New Testaments, the rose window is specifically about the end of the world. This window tells the book of Revelation. The color palette in the rest of the church, with its reds and blues and purples, shifts to green and yellow in this final window. In it you will find God on his throne holding the book of 7 seals, as well as a depiction of St. John and the 7 churches of Asia at the feet of Christ. You will find 2 of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, death and famine. The shaping of this rose window is meant to evoke flames. This window is sometimes referred to as the Rose of the Apocalypse. It is one of the most well-preserved rose windows that you can find today. Of the 87 panels that make up the whole, only 9 have had to be restored. The rest remain original. Number 5. Let's talk about the columns of the church. The columns in the upper chapel represent the 12 apostles, the pillars of the Church of Christ. Accompanying these columns are regal painted statues of the apostles. The painted columns lead up to a ceiling of blue with gold stars that represent the night sky. And if you look closely, the capitals of these columns often feature fanciful animals and florals. In the lower chapel, the columns alternate between red and blue with different patterns. The pattern on the blue columns is the fleur-de-lis, a symbol of France. The red columns feature the castle of Castile, meant to evoke the Spanish heritage of King Louis's mother. Number 6. Very little is known about the building of this chapel. It was constructed in a surprisingly short time, taking only about 6 or 7 years to complete. It is also believed that its design was meant to evoke Charlemagne's royal chapel at Aachen Cathedral in Germany. Meanwhile, no one actually knows who the architect was. While some texts suggest the possibility of the architect's identity, potentially a man named Pierre de Monroy, who was in the king's favor at the time, no one actually knows for certain. So this remarkable feat of Gothic architecture is still something of a mystery in this regard. The chapel is dedicated to the Virgin Mary and is divided into 2 spaces, the lower and upper chapels. The lower chapel, which currently serves as the main entrance and visitor center, was reserved for palace regulars, the non-royal inhabitants including the staff. There is some stained glass in this chapel as well, though more understated, telling stories of the Virgin Mary. The original glass was destroyed by fire, and what you see are redesigned windows from the 19th century. Here you will also find the oldest wall painting in Paris, a fresco of the Annunciation. The upper chapel, originally accessible from the palace through a small door, was the royal chapel, reserved for the royal family and their guests specifically. Today you access the upper chapel by first using a winding stairway in the corner, which will lead you to the upper chapel and to the upper level and into the chapel. With around 7,000 square feet of glass instead of stone, the walls of this chapel are virtually non-existent. The windows overtake the space, held in place only with slender, colorful columns, creating a space that seems as though it should not even be real. Number 7. This chapel has survived its own series of disasters. In addition to surviving 2 separate fires and a flood, the chapel was heavily damaged during the French Revolution, becoming one of the first targets in 1789 where it was used to store grain. Roughly 1/3 of the stained glass did not survive, though there have been restoration efforts since, and some of them were even sold to England. The spire was destroyed, royal emblems smashed, and pieces melted down. Almost none of the relics survived, with the most notable exception being the crown of thorns. Many of the apostolic statues in the upper chapel are actually replicas, with their originals being stored in the Cluny Museum. There are 5 originals still remaining in the chapel, including the statue of St. Peter, who holds the keys to heaven. Like many churches during World War II, the stained glass was removed and stored for safety, allowing the windows to be restored upon their return. With all this turbulent history, the existence of this incredible church makes it a treasure. Today, the chapel is one of the only remaining structures from the oldest palace of the kings of France.